Hey guys. Whew, it is 5 on the dot, so I'm going to give everyone a second to hop on here. Use my new light. I don't know if that even made a difference, hopefully, so you guys can see me a little bit better. I have a lot of stuff to share with you. I'm excited to share it with you. But we will always get to our questions. If you're new to the group, I guess let me start by saying hello. We already welcomed you, so if you didn't see the welcome post and you're new to the group, make sure you go over there and introduce yourself. We have an awesome group here, and everyone will want to know where you're from. Maybe we can find some connections. So if you haven't introduced yourself yet, make sure you do that. If you can't find the post, no worries. Just post in the group on your own. It doesn't have to be in the comments of the welcome post. Just say hello. Let us know what's up. And if you're joining me live, say hello in the comments so I know who's here. I can't see anything, so if you want to stay hidden, that's fine too. So I'm Kate. I'm the owner and runner of this group, I guess you could say. So welcome. If you had a question in the group this week, we'll always answer it in Hoerner Happy Hour. So if you're new, again, anytime you ask a question, just tag me in it and we'll answer it in Hoerner Happy Hour. I had a couple questions this week that were private messaged. That's totally fine. If you're not comfortable answering or asking a question in the group and you don't want everyone to see it, you're a little embarrassed, whatever it might be, first of all, don't be embarrassed. Everyone's going to want to know the answer to the question, I guarantee it. But if you are, that's totally fine. Just send me a message and I'll answer it that way. I have been getting a lot more that way, which is fine. So feel free to do that as well. I have some news that I want to share as people are still hopping on here. So I'm very excited. I don't know if you guys know this about me. I haven't really shared this. So I've worked in the financial services industry for, 8 years now? And since college, and I've been doing fitness part-time, so I teach morning and evenings on the weekends. It's been a very big part of my life for a very long time. And I'm finally making it my full-time gig. So I am very excited. It's a big jump for me. It's a little scary, but if any of you guys on here are full-time fitness, then I'm in the same boat as you now. I'm really excited. So like I said, I've been training, teaching, everything part-time for a really long time. And when I say part-time, I mean basically another full-time job on top of my current full-time job. So I gave my notice at my job a couple weeks ago, and I will be going full-time fitness. I will be managing a cycling studio. I will be teaching a lot more classes, so I'm going to have even more input for you guys, more details, more trainings, more good stuff, especially being behind the scenes as a manager. I think I will be able to give you even more value, especially if you guys are managers. I've already kind of been doing it part-time for a while now, so you'll probably have noticed a lot of my stuff pertains to management as well. But it's going to be really great for this group. I think I'm going to have a ton of good info for you guys, and I'm already building lots of good stuff for you, so it's going to be great. But I wanted to share that because it's a big win for me. It's a big life change for me, pursuing my dreams, and I'm a big fan of that no matter what it takes. So hopefully you guys are a little bit inspired by my crazy actions, and maybe you take part as well. So let's get into the questions for today. We had, I think, 4. The first one was in regards to Spotify. This was a private messaged one. Couple questions in regards to Spotify. So one, which was really good because I actually had some trouble with this when I first started using Spotify. And honestly, a lot of people don't know this ahead of time, and it ends up hurting them. So if you use Spotify, pay attention. If you're using the Crossfade option, so if you are, let me back up, Crossfade is an option in Spotify, not in iTunes, so that's one of the benefits. I did talk about this on an earlier Hoerner Happy Hour, but for someone who hasn't been here a while and doesn't know what Crossfade is, it's basically easing out of one song into the other so you don't have that awkward blank space in between. So you can make it as long as you want. Spotify allows you to choose. I think I have mine set to like 8 seconds or something like that. It will vary by playlist maybe if you have some songs with a lot of dead space at the end. But basically it's just taking 8 songs away by fading and overlapping the music, if that makes sense. So you'll hear one song come out and the other one come in at the same time. It is awesome for a class because it keeps you, like I said, from having that blank space awkwardly kind of in between your songs. So I highly recommend using that. But the question that I got was in regards to how to know how long the playlist is if you're crossfading. So the question was actually how to know the length of the playlist, because the person was seeing the length at the top of their Spotify, but it wasn't matching up. So maybe it's a 50-minute class or something like that, and it says 50 minutes in the playlist, and it ended up being 47, 48, which, as you guys know, it's kind of a big difference in a class that we're doing. We want to kind of time it as closely as we can. So the key thing to remember is that if you're using a crossfade, you have to think about it like those seconds, those crossfaded seconds, are getting removed from your total length of time, right? So the way I do it is I build my playlist and I take whatever the crossfade is and I multiply that. This is going to get a little complicated, but not too much. So let's say it's 5 seconds crossfade. I multiply that by 1 less than the number of songs in my playlist, because that's how many in between spots there will be, right? If I have 13 songs, I'm going to have 12 gaps, we'll say. So 12 times 5, 60 seconds, that's a whole minute that I lost. So when I'm accounting for how long my playlist is, that's what I do to make sure I take that 60 seconds or whatever it ends up being after I calculate it and subtract it from the total number on the top of Spotify that it tells me my playlist length is. So hopefully that makes sense. Feel free to go back and listen to this later, or if you're listening to the recording, just as many times as you need to, do that again, because it can get confusing, but it's not. Once you learn how to do it, it'll be easy. One thing to take note of, though, is if you do change your crossfade every class or whatever it may be, you have to take that into account if you go back and use an old playlist, because maybe you had a different crossfade. So hopefully that's helpful. It does get a little confusing, but I promise you'll get the hang of it. The other question was a little bit simpler in regards to Spotify. It's just whether or not you need to download a playlist if you're not going to have Wi-Fi. I would suggest, and let me back up again, anyone who is new to Spotify, for every playlist, you're going to have an option at the top to download it. It's just a switch on or off. You always want that on for a class that you're going to use that playlist, or an upcoming day you're going to use that playlist. Reason being, even if you have cell service, if you're using your cell phone and you don't have Wi-Fi, if your service falters, it's going to ruin your class. And even if you have Wi-Fi, I wouldn't trust it. So I would always download a playlist beforehand. Easy to do. If you don't have a lot of room on your phone, then each time you use a new playlist, just remove the old one, download a new one. It's an easy switch at the top. Just make sure you give it enough time when you're on Wi-Fi or on cell service to download. Don't get there and be like, oh crap, I forgot to download. One tip around that, if you're using something and you don't have Wi-Fi at your studio and you need to download something last minute, if you're using like an iPod or something like that, or a computer, you can use your phone as a hotspot, assuming you have cell service, and download it that way. So you could go into Wi-Fi settings. Your phone will likely be an option as a hotspot, or you might have to turn it on as a hotspot, but that is an option for kind of a last minute freak out. And you can download through the cell service, through your phone, that way. So very confusing. Again, if you have any extra questions on that, let me know. Our third question, I'm trying to remember. Tips for getting people to come back to your classes, right? We all want that, right? We want people to return, obviously. I have mentioned this before, but not so specifically. I would say my biggest tip, obviously the basics, you got to give them a good class, but really try to get to know your people. Get to know the community. You want these people to know you. You want them to trust you. You want them to like you. So, no like, trust, not in that order. No like, trust. Remember that. And the way that you do that, one big tip I have for that, simple, remember their names. That's it. You see someone coming in who came to your class for the first time last time, and you had gotten their name last time, and you say, oh, hey, Bill, good to see you. How was that tennis match you had this weekend? That goes such a long way. And I'll tell you, that's how I've gotten all my regulars. Obviously, they must like my class as well, but it makes a big difference if you make that connection with people, because then they feel comfortable and they feel like they can ask you questions, or if they need help, they can ask you. And they just feel they want to, we're the stars, right? We're up on stage. They want to know us. They want to be part of our posse. As crazy as that sounds, it's weird. And you guys know, you go to classes, you see instructors, you kind of put them up on a pedestal a little bit, right? Like, you want to get to know them usually, especially if they're good. So remember that people just want to hang out. They want to get to know you. And I have a terrible memory. Terrible. I remember faces, but not names. So I always, as soon as I get someone's name, I go to the notes section of my phone, pretend I'm getting my class ready, right? And I write their name down. And okay, maybe it's Bill. He's an older male with gray hair, and he's tall. Something like that. The guy who plays tennis. You know, things that I'll remember, and then also things that I can bring up with them next time. It's super helpful. And I have a whole list of them in my notes section of my phone. Nothing wrong with that. And eventually you'll just remember, because it'll stick after a few times. But it does go a long way, especially with new riders. It'll get them to come back. So that's probably my biggest tip. I could go on forever, but for today, we'll leave it at that. And the last question for today, which I can't really answer because it's very broad, but I'll try my best, or I'll let you know how I'm going to. So I've been getting probably 3 times in the last 2 weeks, I've had people ask me, what's the best way to build a class profile, and how can I execute the profile that I build in the best way without taking hours and hours and hours of time, right? We all want that. I can't even tell you how many times I have gotten that question, and because of that, I built something for you guys, and I'm going to tell you, I promise, I know I've been teasing this a lot, but next week I'm going to let you know all about it. I've had a method that I use, and I'm going to share it with you. It has a lot to it, so I'm going to save it for next week, but just make sure you tune in, and if you're on my email list, you'll be the first to find out, so if you're not, make sure you are. But there's a lot that I'm going to share, so it's going to be good, but I can't really do it all now, so just stay tuned. And as always, if you guys have other questions, or if you want to send them privately too, that's fine. Just message me. I'm always in here every single day, all day. So I'm here for you. And if you have any kind of last minute freakouts before class, whether it's Spotify related or otherwise, I got you. So just let me know. All right, everyone, have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.